your reaction, mate, Carl Palmer, a name that was linked about 10 days ago, but maybe not one that you expected to complete. Some are saying a little bit similar to what you already have. Others are really excited about it. Does this transfer move you? Is it good business in your opinion, mate?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely good business, man. I've always rated Palmer, to be honest. And what I've realized is a lot of people that have a lot of doubts on him, I don't think they watch enough City, because he doesn't get enough game time for them. But if you watch them in the Champions League, if you watch them in the Carabao, if you watch them in the FA Cup, you would know that this guy's quality, man. The only reason why he doesn't play really is because Bernardo Silva was ahead of him. Mahrez used to get benched and he was ahead of him. Foden was ahead of him. So technically he was like third choice. But for me, he definitely doesn't play like a 21-year-old, man. He's very, very polished for a 21-year-old. Got a really good finish on him. Really, really good at retaining the ball. Tactically, he understands his role really well. Obviously, he's being coached by arguably the greatest coach that we've ever seen. And he's young. Do you know what I mean? He's young. I'm not saying he's going to come here and bang in 30 goals a season, but I'm looking at him as someone that could potentially be a game changer in the future. He scored quite a lot of clutch goals for City. You know, the other day he scored in a Super Cup. He just scored the other week against Arsenal. He's got a good left foot on him, man. Really, really good finish. So I think he's different to what we've got, like, because he can play in the 10, and he can also play on the wing. I wouldn't say he's as direct as Noni or Mudryk, for example, but what he does offer is something that's a little bit different, you know. And like I said, he can play down the middle as well. So he will give us a little bit of flexibility because obviously Nkuku's injured right now. So I'm happy with the signing, man. Again, I'm not saying he's going to come in and become world class, but he definitely has the potential to become world class. And as it is right now, he's polished, man, for a 21-year-old. I'm happy with it. I'm gassed with it, to be honest.
I hear you on that. What about I'm going to ask you this, not from my perspective, but you had Daps on the Top 6 show Monday kind of saying to you, but all you're praising is potential. Where are the players to deliver in the here and now? Is it a concern that you haven't maybe gone out and bought a more established attacker to help with all these youngsters, or do you actually trust what Todd Bowley, what Pochettino are trying to do and build here?
In an ideal world, Terry, I've said this a million times, I would love experience. But when I ask people, give me the solutions, give me the names, they can't give me the names right now that we can go out there and get in those positions. So I have to deal with what the market's looking at right now. And let's be real, everyone that we can get that's realistic are young. You get it? They're all young players. So we just have to trust that we're looking at the players that are young, but still have that quality that can hack it in the league. Because he's got Premier League experience. He's been playing with Man City. Like, these are treble winners. Let's not act like he's going to come from flipping Bournemouth or, you know, Wimbledon, for example. He's a top player, man. I rate him highly. So I think people need to start looking at the quality of these players rather than looking at just their age. Because I think that's kind of lazy analysis rather than actually looking at the players that are coming in. Ideally, I would love to get more experience, but who is there? We can't go and get Mbappe. Do you know what I mean? We can't go get Vinicius right now. He's young as well. We can't go and get Rodrigo. He's another young one. All these guys are young, bro. Olise was young, but Premier League proven. So again, I'm more than happy to listen to people's suggestions about older players, but who is there that we can go get right now? So we have to take a little, different avenue, I guess. So I'm happy with it, man. I think Palmer's a baller. I think he's ready to play for us, to be honest. I think he's a baller.
So ironic hearing Chelsea fans saying trust the process. Is mad.
Listen, in an ideal world, I would love experience, man. I would love experience, but there's just no one there in the market.
I mean, there's a pretty experienced guy. He just played in a Champions League final. He's played at Manchester United. He's played at a couple big clubs. He's on his way to Roma. He seems available now.
Who?
Lukaku.
Oh, you're taking the piss. You're taking the piss, man. But yeah, no, Terry, I'm happy with the signing. I'll be real.
No, I listen, and I get it. You guys have gone for this, and I do get your point around who these experienced players you could buy. Now, I know if Lee Gunner was sitting here, he would say maybe not so much to Chelsea. You've invested a lot. I said about Rasmus Højlund. I wanted Kane. Man United couldn't get that deal done. The budget hasn't been given to the club to go and get that deal done in terms of the 100 million odd to sign him, plus the 500-600 grand a week it would have cost to get him to the club. The manager wanted him and said no. The next option we went for was a young up-and-coming player in Rasmus Højlund. Now, I understand the take of a league gunner that you should demand from your owners that they invest the money to be able to go and buy Harry Kane or Usherman. If they don't, the manager should quit and walk away. But the problem that you have is that most owners don't do what Man City do, which actually, when you again, when you break down the logic, it means on average around 16 to 17 managers would all be quitting their jobs in the Premier League every single season, because owners don't do that per se on all those kind of deals. So I understand where you're coming from. In reality, you have to look at the situation and say, is there a 25, 26-year-old who we can sign, who the club will sell, that wants to join us, that can improve the team? If there isn't one of ample quality, why not buy 21, 22, 23-year-olds with potential for generally a cheaper price, put a lot of them in? A lot of these young players are going to have a good sell-on value, even if they're loaned out. So I do understand the strategy. You know, whether it works, we're only really going to know in 2 or 3 years' time. But I'm intrigued. I am intrigued.
And the good thing is, I think people are forgetting who we actually hired. We brought in Poch to help develop these young players. He's got a proven track record of doing it in the league. Do you get it? And if it works, it's going to be amazing, because a lot of these players are going to develop and blossom at the same time. So I'm happy, man. I'm gassed.
This comment here says they should have got Felix on a permanent deal.
Felix ain't a good winger, and we've already turned him away. Like, end product's not there.
He didn't earn it.
Yeah. Listen, when he first came to you guys, I was one of those people with Felix that felt that he moved too early to Ati, and the style of football killed him. First couple of games for you, I know he got sent off very early, but that first performance against Fulham, and then when he came back, I was looking at this guy, baller. This guy's got everything looked really good. But the more and more I watched him, I realized that, no, this guy has no end product. It became more and more apparent that he wasn't delivering, and the money he would have 80 million plus whatever he want in salaries, 300, 400, 500 grand a week for a player. And you've got to look at it this way. Barca might come in for him, but who else in the world is looking at him? And he's only 24, 25. That's it. Listen, I didn't want to even say this today, but I will. It's like all the idiot Man United fans who genuinely believe that Donny van der Beek is clear of Bruno. Why is only... Listen, when I first read it, I thought he said Leighton Orient. But the fact that only... What they called it? Is it Lorient? How do you even pronounce their name?
Lorient.
Yeah. The fact that only that one club, L'Oreal FC, because he's worth it, they're the only club that wants to buy him, that tells you everything. There are some Man United fans who think Martial's still better than Rashford. No one in the world wants to buy him. Not even the Saudis. And it kill it over there. No one wants him. So you have to sometimes look at these situations. Who wants a player? So back to that comment. Yeah, no, they shouldn't have signed Felix 110%. That would be a waste. Felix hits the woodwork more than a carpenter.
He got unlucky last season, to be fair. He could have had a few more goals than what he got.
Hitting the woodwork.
Gives me Martial vibes, man, where like they're just good dribblers. They look nice on the ball, but then nothing.
End product's not there,
Yeah.
Some of these super chats here. This one from Mohammed says, having mixed feelings about Palmer. Who's clear? Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
I'll be so real with you. In that 10, he's definitely more polished than Chukwuemeka. I'll be so real with you.
But then the question is, you got Nkunku and you got other players there that is it just seems like you're getting too much in one area. And like, I still think you guys need a better goalkeeper. I'm not much of a fan of Robert Sanchez.
Yes.
And you need a goal scorer. Because look, Nicholas Jackson, he might be talented, but he's not going to guarantee you 15 Premier League goals a season.
I think that's why they've actually brought in a Palmer. I think that's why they've actually brought in a Palmer even to add a little bit more firepower. Because I think in front of goal, some of those chances that Chilwell was getting, bro, Palmer's burying that for fun. For fun. We've seen this guy score some serious goals with that left foot, man. And I think we're going to wait it out and probably get a Tony in January. I think that's what's going to happen. So I don't want to rush around and panic buy and just get any striker. And how I look at it right now as well, Terry, like I'm trying to be a little bit proactive because obviously the aim is to get back into Europe. So what I want is a squad to be ready to go back into Europe. So when we get there, we can just make one or two more tweaks and then we're good to go. Do you get it? We need a squad to be able to challenge across all trophies, all competitions that we're in as well.
I hear what you're saying, mate. George here says that Palmer looks like a baller. Can't believe City let him go. And listen, everyone's going to have mixed emotions on this, no doubt. Cole Palmer is the most underwhelming signing, Terry, is what Matty says, though. So very different take on this from Matty, who's a Chelsea fan as well. Go for Tony in January. I dare any club to outbid us, is what Anton says. But maybe that's the plan.
We've seen that before.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Boys, I've got to shoot, so I'll probably be back if you're still on after that. I'll be back.
Okay, bro. No worries, my G. I'll speak to you soon.
To do, and I think Cole Palmer, I don't think he was really necessary, seeing the fact they've already got the likes of Nkunku, Madueke, Sterling, Mudryk. they've already got enough, and they've probably got some talented players in the youth academy. I know Chukwuemeka is also another player that they have. So, yeah, I think for me, I don't see the reason why they bought him. I think they could have done a lot better, as in terms of get better replacements for their team that is actually needed rather than Palmer.
Brand, do you agree with that?
To a degree, yeah. Obviously, Chelsea need other areas, but I think Cole Palmer's a very good signing. To be fair, in this current market as well, I know he's reasonably unproven, but £45 million for the talent, and the manager that he's going to be working with is proven with young talented players. I think he can get the best out of Cole Palmer. To be honest with you, I genuinely do. We've seen it with Pochettino at Spurs with numerous of players where, he's kind of taken them under his wing and made them so much better. Like, look at Dele Alli, for example. And I know, obviously he's had personal things going on in his life, which has affected, where he is in his career now. But, when he took Dele Alli from MK Dons, nobody knew who this guy was. And he was arguably for a good couple of years period there, arguably the best number 10 in the Premier League. So,
I get that, but at that time, Dele Alli was playing not against Eriksen, playing with Eriksen because they were playing both together. Cole Palmer will be playing up against players that I think, in my opinion, are ahead of him in his development. I think Madueke is just about a little bit ahead of him. I think Nkunku's ahead of him. I think obviously Sterling's light years ahead of him. He's already a grown man. And Mudryk is a little bit ahead of him as well. So I'm wondering, I mean, it's low level, but I get at the end of the day, he's still
Mudryk can't be ahead of Cole Palmer. He
no
can't.
way.
Ahead of it. In a sense,
I watched Mudryk the other day have a shot from I think it was 12 yards out, and it went out for a throw-in, bro. Like, you can't tell me that Mudryk is ahead of Cole Palmer in his development. No way.
In his development, where is he? When is the opportunity for him to play going to happen? Like, there's so many players that are available. Because you're just juggling up so many names. At least the likes of Dele Alli. I think the player that was in front of him was Paulinho. And then he got sold, I think, to China, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think he got sold to China. So there is no real clear pathway. And if I was Cole Palmer's camp, I'm wondering, where's the actual clear progression for him to actually develop?
Yeah, but at the same time, do you not think he's got a better opportunity of getting game time and actually establishing himself at Chelsea than what he is at Manchester City? Look at the players that he's got to try and get in ahead of at Manchester City. The players that he's trying to get in ahead of at Chelsea are pretty much on the same sort of development level as what he is. So I think he's got the talent, definitely.
I think he's got. Listen, I do get the challenge that there's so many players there. Who's going to make? Some of these players are not going to rise to the top. But my view is this: if you're good enough via training and when you get your appearances, you'll deliver. And maybe what we're actually seeing here as well is a little bit of foreshadowing. Maybe, like Koulibaly's already gone, Bamiyang's already gone, and they were signed straight out the door. Maybe the manager's come in, and I'm just going to throw a name out there. Maybe he's looked at Madueke and gone, I know you guys have bought him, but this kid ain't for me. And they don't want to damage. It's okay with the player Koulibaly's age, especially when Saudi came in from. It's okay with a player Aubameyang's age because he's really well past his best. What again? I'm not calling him out here, but Lee Gunner would say what you should do is out the player and say shit and stick him in the under 21s and say he's not playing. The problem is when you do that is you damage the sell-on value. Now, it's hard to sell crap players. It's very hard to sell Maguire to anybody. But imagine how much harder it is to try and sell him at a good price if you publicly state and make it outgoing that he has nothing to do with your club. It's poor salesmanship. And people like Lee and many others like him should understand this. They were salesmen. That was their job. You imagine you say, he used to sell double glazing. Imagine he tells his clients before he tries to sell them his windows, that the windows are shit and don't work. But by the way, do you want to buy them? It doesn't work. In my personal opinion, which is, forget a club like Man United that are toxic. Pep wouldn't do it. Pep wouldn't turn around and say, these players are this, they're that, they're not good. He bigs every player up that he doesn't want, talks about how amazing they are, and then sells them. Why? Because that's how you get more money for them. So I think there could be a player or two at Chelsea like a Madueke, as an example, it may not be him, who you suddenly see loaned out after the window shuts. Maybe they go to Strasbourg, who they just bought, and is slowly phased away. Because I do think you'll probably find a manager of Poch's coaching ability has come in and gone, I know what you guys were trying to do, but these 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think it's one of those things. I get the challenge, but I think we've got to wait a little bit to see who leaves. I really, really do. And that's not a dig at Lee, by the way. I just like to call it out because he ain't the only one who thinks that managers should sit there in press conferences and say all the players I don't want are shit, which I just think is a crazy concept personally, but that's just me.